Hi everyone, my name is Kylie James. I'm a certified nutritionist here at Crew Nutrition. And this month our theme is depression and anxiety. So today's talk is specifically on nutrition and how it can positively impact depression and anxiety, with a focus on individuals that have a traumatic brain injury. When individuals have a brain injury, they are more at risk of having depression and anxiety. And then you put in a pandemic with that, and it just makes things so much worse. So I want to share with you some information specific around this and some strategies to help. Next slide. Okay, so depression and TBI. So this is just some stats. 53% experience major depressive disorder in the first year of sustaining a moderate to severe brain injury, and 22% experience depression during the first 6 months following a concussion. So there are high rates of depression following a traumatic brain injury and a concussion. Now, obviously, there's common interventions that we all know about to help address this: psychological counseling with a psychologist, a social worker, a psychotherapist, medications, so antidepressant, anti-anxiety medications, yoga, meditation, positive mindset, as well as exercise to help release those endorphins to help us feel happy. But really, do people explore nutrition as an approach to preventing and managing depression and anxiety? And it's quite empowering and powerful that we can take some control over our brain chemistry by what we put in our mouths. So we are what we eat. Our body is constantly breaking down, repairing, rejuvenating, and replacing. So for example, when we break down proteins, they get broken down into amino acids. And those amino acids help with the help of cofactors such as vitamins and minerals. They actually help to make neurotransmitters to help us feel motivated, help us feel calm, happy, sleep, help us to focus. So basically, we are what we eat and absorb as well. So even though we're eating the right kind of foods, our digestion needs to be working effectively to help break down and absorb those nutrients into the body. So research has shown that poor mental health is linked to poor diet quality. So people who ate more unhealthy food were more likely to report psychological distress compared with people that ate a healthy diet. So eating foods such as fried foods or those that contain too much sugar, as well as processed grains like pizza, bagels, white bread, had a greater link to depression. So I wanted to touch on something specific. So remember how I was saying we are what we eat and absorb. So there's a massive amount of research coming out of Harvard University on the gut-brain connection and how our gut and our gut microbiome can have a huge influence on our brain chemistry in relation to our mood. So if we have a poor gut health, we have poor brain health as well. So that's why when we work with individuals with concussions and brain injuries, we always want to support their gut health as well because they're so closely linked. So poor gut health can be a result of a number of different factors. So inflammation in the gut, holes in our gut lining, which is called intestinal permeability or leaky gut, and pathogens in our gut as well. So you can see in this diagram here that if you have normal gut function, it's really going to help with behavior, cognition, emotion, and nociception, which is your ability to perceive sensory information in your environment. So if you have poor gut health, all those factors are going to have an impact. So why is supporting gut health so important when someone has a brain injury? So following a brain injury, the brain becomes inflamed. But what is not obvious is the fact that this actually leads to inflammation in the gut. And this actually occurs within hours following a brain injury. So inflammation in the gut increases intestinal permeability. So we have these tight junctions in our gut. And when we have inflammation, these little holes become a lot larger. And this allows for undigested food particles, toxins, and bacteria to enter into the bloodstream. This causes systemic inflammation. And what this does is it actually keeps the blood-brain barrier open. And so this fuels inflammation into the brain as well. So in a sense, both your brain and your gut are on fire following a brain injury. So I wanted to talk more about that gut lining because it is really important in terms of a healthy gut and a healthy brain. So our healthy gut lining is really important because that's when the food is traveling through our intestines. We're absorbing the vitamins and the minerals and the carbs and the proteins into our bodies. So after a brain injury, nutrients may not be absorbed as well, and toxins and bacteria may be getting in. So one study showed that amongst adult brain injury survivors, 8 to 33% of individuals exhibit some kind of microbiome or gut imbalance. So definitely want to be looking at when someone has a brain injury. So I just wanted to give you more of a visual on sort of the gut lining and what it looks like. So you've got these normal tight junctions here. So basically you broke down, a protein gets broken down to one single amino acid, lots and lots of single amino acids. And that single amino acid will go through that little tight junction there. But if you get more of those gaps, then a combination of multiple amino acids that haven't broken down to that single one leaks in. So there's a number of reasons why those tight junctions can actually become larger. So antibiotics, infections, blood sugar issues, stress, trauma, menopause, food allergies, they can all trigger that intestinal damage. And when these undigested food particles, bacteria, and toxins leak through that gut lining, that can create an autoimmune response. It can create inflammation. It can cause the blood-brain barrier to be breached, and it can put us at risk of malabsorption and nutrient deficiencies. So let's have a look at more about that gut microbiome. So we have trillions of bacteria in our gut. We actually have 10 times more bacteria in our body than we do human cells. So we literally have a whole ecosystem going on within our bodies. And even within the gut, we have 1,000 different species. So this is huge. Now, bacteria varies from person to person based on age, diet, behavior, environment, and genes. And these pathogens, now we do need good bacteria and we have bad bacteria. So you sort of want to keep to the 80-20 rule, 80 good, 20 bad. But if we get too much of that bad bacteria or those parasites or yeast, it can cause inflammation. It can cause problems with our digestion. Bad bacteria can release mycotoxins that circulate around our body and affect brain chemistry. Even some bacteria can contribute to obesity. So if you're someone that struggles to lose weight, you may want to check your microbiome because there could be specific bacteria in there that are causing that obesity. And it also impacts neurotransmitters. So may be responsible for things like tics, obsessive compulsive disorder, anxiety, depression, and aggression. So this is, you can see this a lot with kids on the spectrum, with kids with autism. There's definitely huge gut imbalances going on with that population as well. So what's interesting about the gut microbiome, it has a role in various neurological conditions. So as I mentioned before, kids on the spectrum, but as well as chronic pain, stress, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and yes, depression and anxiety. What's really interesting about the gut microbiome is there's research to show that it can influence our response to medications. So you might be on an antidepressant and your colleague or friend might be on an antidepressant. They're having amazing results, no side effects. You're on that same antidepressant, but you're not getting any results from the antidepressant and having all these side effects. So that difference could actually be due to the difference in your gut microbiome. So really interesting stuff. So what can we do to help address this? So no surprise, eat lots of fruits and vegetables. So dietary fiber helps grow that healthy intestinal bacteria. Bacteria love fiber and they will feed off that and flourish and grow. So one study found the variety in the gut microbiome was based on the variety of fruits and vegetables people consume in their diet. So that microbiome composition of the gut can be actually rapidly altered by dietary changes. So McDonald and his team of researchers indicated that this evidence would lead one to believe that more targeted diet changes could be a promising therapeutic avenue for conditions such as TBI that could potentially alter the gut microbiome. So researchers also found that good gut bacteria can have a positive impact on GABA levels in the brain. So GABA is a neurotransmitter that's involved in regulating anxiety, digestion, sleep, and relaxation. It's a really calming neurotransmitter. So by feeding our bacteria, we actually help with those GABA levels in the brain to help us feel calm and relaxed. So a recent study found that just even if you eat an extra 4 portions of fruit and vegetables could help to boost a person's mental health. Research also showed that the more fruit and vegetables people ate, the less likely they were to be diagnosed with a mental illness. So recommendations to support a healthy gut, to support healthy mood. We didn't touch on this, but important to bring up is avoid sugar, because as much as fruit and vegetables feed the good bacteria, sugar feeds the bad bacteria. So you want to try and reduce that as much as possible. Take a probiotic. You want to go for something like 10 billion active cultures and try to get a variety of the species in the capsule as well. Eat fermented foods. So sauerkraut has trillions of bacteria in it, but you may want to incorporate other foods such as kombucha, which is like a fizzy drink, kimchi, kefir, which is a fermented yogurt, miso, or even plain yogurt. And obviously eating that variety, eating the rainbow of the fruits and vegetables to get that full spectrum of antioxidants, but also to feed the variety of bacteria in your gut. So I wanted to also touch on inflammation. So following a brain injury, there's chronic neuroinflammation. And research tells us that inflammation may contribute to depression. So given that low-grade inflammation can persist years after a brain injury, this actually could be linked to high rates of depression following TBI. Of course, there's lifestyle adjustments and changes in abilities to do things that can be frustrating and limiting, and social isolation. There's a lot of other factors, lifestyle factors, but there could actually be a brain chemistry factor in the fact that it's inflammation. So cytokines are chemical messages that regulate inflammation in the body. Now, we do need inflammation to help with the healing process. So for example, you fall over and you injure your knee, you have that redness, that swelling, that heat, that's all inflammation. And we need that because it helps to bring nutrients to the injured site, to repair it, and also to get rid of the debris and damaged cells. But if inflammation persists over time and becomes chronic, that's when it becomes a problem. So there's actually research to show that there's an increase of those inflammatory markers, those cytokines, seen in depression following a traumatic brain injury. Now, cytokines actually heavily influenced by diet. So consuming certain foods and avoiding others can really help to control those cytokine levels in the body. So the foods that you see here, the chips, the donuts, the hamburger and the fries and all the processed foods, those are all pro-inflammatory. So they're going to contribute to inflammation in the body and help increase those cytokine levels. Now, my colleague and I were actually part of a research study at Brock University quite a few years ago now. The study was looking at individuals with spinal cord injury. So spinal cord injury also have chronic neuroinflammation as well. The study looked at putting these participants on a anti-inflammatory diet and monitoring their symptoms over the 3 months. So basically it was looking at those cytokine levels in the blood and how this in turn impact on pain, depression, and sleep. So they followed the anti-inflammatory diet, which was no dairy, no gluten, no processed foods, no sugars. And they were also put on anti-inflammatory supplements as well. So that was a antioxidant formula, curcumin, which is the active component in turmeric, which is very anti-inflammatory, fish oils, which is also anti-inflammatory, and a vegetarian protein powder, which is a vehicle to help get more fruits and vegetables and good fats into their diet. So after 3 months being on the anti-inflammatory diet, cytokine levels significantly reduced in the blood by 28%. This is the cool thing. Depression scores reduced by 55% in 3 months, compared to 48% in SSRIs. And that improvement was seen in half the time that it took for the SSRIs to take effect. So not only was it more effective, but it was a lot quicker at being effective as well. Pain scores significantly reduced by 39%, and sleep scores significantly improved as well. Now, there was a lot of other improvements that the researchers noted, but unfortunately we hadn't recorded, such as weight loss, skin health, etc. But really interesting to see the power of an anti-inflammatory diet on mood and pain and depression. So let's have a closer look at the anti-inflammatory diet. So again, you've got all your like raw fruits and vegetables, your raw nuts, those omega-3 eggs. You've got your turmeric, which has an active component, curcumin, which is really anti-inflammatory. You've got your oily fish. You've got your dark chocolate, and you can have a little bit of red wine, ideally organic, in moderation. And again, a lot of those good fats, the virgin olive oil, the coconut oil, the grass-fed butter, but really flavoring your foods with herbs and spices, as opposed to those sugar-loaded sauces that are loaded with preservatives, artificial colorings, and flavorings. Getting rid of those inflammatory foods, so those are your fast foods, your sugar, your fried foods, and all those commercial salad dressings, margarine, sunflower, soybean, and safflower oil, as well as refined and whole grains, which is what we did in this diet. So where do I start? Because that can be a bit overwhelming with the anti-inflammatory diet, especially if you're consuming a lot of grains and a lot of processed food. So I always start from the beginning. So I find this is the easiest place to start, because it also helps to balance blood sugars for the day, which sets the stage for better eating patterns throughout the day. So also too, typical Western breakfasts tend to be refined grains such as white bread, white cereals, or grabbing bagels and coffees while you're on the run. So trying to incorporate smoothies or smoothie bowls, getting the good quality protein powder. You can put flaxseed in there, chia seeds in there, and again, fruits and vegetables, especially if you're not consuming those for breakfast to start off with. Chia pudding, which is great. You can make a whole batch and keep them in the fridge for a week. Omelette with vegetables, steel cut oats with cinnamon and berries and raw nuts. And you don't have to have a typical breakfast. If you're not someone that's hungry in the morning, you may want to do a soup or a bone broth or a smoked salmon with avocado. So you can really be creative with what you have with breakfast. But these are all anti-inflammatory breakfasts that are high in antioxidants and help balance blood sugars. So just in summary, eat a variety of bright colored fruits and vegetables, take a good quality probiotic, eat those fermented foods such as kimchi, miso, kefir, sauerkraut, avoid processed, fried, and packaged foods, and especially avoid sugar, and follow the anti-inflammatory diet. So anti-inflammatory diet is no dairy or no gluten. If you feel that is too much for you, then you may want to look at a Mediterranean diet, which does incorporate good dairy products in there, such as Greek yogurt, feta cheese, tzatziki, and it does have some whole grain breads in there. Remember, make one simple change at a time, establish that habit, and then make another change. I find a lot of time if we try and make all the changes all at once, it can set us up for failure. So thanks very much for your time. I appreciate you listening to this talk, and I will see you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye.